You know, in any high stakes operation, whether it's a military campaign or a massive disaster relief effort, success starts long before anyone makes a move. It all begins with a really disciplined process of understanding the mission. So let's dive into that foundational step, mission analysis.
So let's just start with that big question. When everything is on the line, how do you even begin to craft a plan? This isn't about wishful thinking or just hoping for the best. It's about a systematic process that's designed to replace all those assumptions with cold, hard facts.
And look, this is nothing new. As this quote from way back in 1944 shows, this same logical process has been the absolute bedrock of high-stakes planning for generations. The core principles, they stay the same whether you have months to plan or just a few minutes.
And that gets us to the absolute first rule of this whole thing. Before you can even begin to think about a solution, you have to deeply, thoroughly, and completely understand the problem you're up against. And that is mission analysis. Its entire purpose is to answer those 5 fundamental questions: who, what, when, where, and why. Now, notice what's missing? The how. And that's the whole point, right? You absolutely cannot figure out how to accomplish a mission until you have a crystal clear picture of those first 5 W's.
But, answering these questions isn't just about filling out a simple checklist. It's this process of balancing bold ambition with hard reality. And that creates this natural tension between 2 really key roles: the person who defines the goal and the person who has to ask if it's even possible. And what I love about this is the creative tension it shows. On one side, you have the operations planner. They're focused on the what, the objective, the big goal. But then you've got the logistics planner, the supply and support expert, and they ask a much more fundamental question. Can we actually do this? They are the voice of reality in the room, and that's their job in a nutshell. A logistician's role is to be the anchor, to ground the plan in physical reality. They make sure that right from the very start, the team is building a plan that's not just bold, but is actually achievable. So let's really dig into what the logistician is doing during mission analysis, because this is where the seeds of success or failure are so often planted. Okay, so the first thing is, you don't just start from scratch. The logistician gets flooded with information. They're digging into the official orders from higher up, they're poring over intel reports to really understand the environment, they're taking in estimates from all the other experts on the team, and, most importantly, they're absorbing the commander's initial vision. This is the raw material they have to work with. One of the core tools they use is something called physical network analysis, or PNA. The best way to think of it is like creating a logistics map of the world. It's not just about where things are, but about understanding how stuff, we're talking fuel, ammo, food, can actually move through that geography. And this is a super methodical process, not just guesswork. It starts big with a wide look at the entire operational environment. Then they start mapping the specific infrastructure that really matters: every port, every airfield, every key bridge. The crucial third step is assessing capacity, finding the real-world limits and bottlenecks in that network. It's only after all that work that they can truly map out how supplies are going to flow. And the level of detail here is just incredible. They aren't just looking at a road on a map. They're asking, okay, how many tons of stuff can this road handle per day? They don't just see a bridge. They ask, what is its actual load-bearing strength? This kind of deep analysis is what reveals both the highways and the hazards of the supply chain. A perfect real-world example of this is Operation Tomodachi. That was the U.S. response to the huge 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan. I mean, think about it. Ports were wrecked, roads were just gone. Logisticians did a super fast physical network analysis to figure out where aid could and, more importantly, couldn't go. And that directly led to the decision to lean heavily on ship-based helicopters to deliver aid. So beyond the physical world, logisticians also help map out the rules of the mission. Think of it like this. Restraints are your red lights. They are the hard stops, the things you absolutely are forbidden from doing. Constraints, on the other hand, are like green lights that are always on, things you absolutely must do no matter what. Together, they create the boundaries that any realistic plan has to fit inside. In the run-up to Operation Desert Storm, the mission analysis came back and basically screamed 2 things: fuel and ports. The entire effort, and I mean everything, was going to hinge on just those 2 factors. Identifying those limiting factors so early drove everything from diplomacy to how forces flowed into the region. It shaped the whole campaign.
At the end of the day, this all comes down to a checklist of fundamental nuts and bolts questions. They've got to know our exact needs for supplies like fuel and food. They have to confirm that our equipment is actually ready for the mission. They need a hard count of every available ship, plane, and truck. And they have to figure out what kind of support we can expect from local partners. This is the unglamorous work that makes a plan real.
So after all this analysis, what do you actually get? Well, it's not just some academic exercise that sits on a shelf. It produces concrete, tangible things that are used to forge the final plan and guide the commander's biggest decisions. This work results in a few key products. The logistician delivers their formal staff estimate. That's their professional judgment on what's truly feasible. Their insights help shape the official mission statement and even the commander's own intent. And crucially, they draft the very first version of the concept of logistic support, the actual blueprint for sustaining the entire operation. And this, right here, is the ultimate payoff. A commander's intent is their personal vision for the operation. The logistician's hard work ensures that this vision, the very heart of the plan, is tied to reality. It defines the operational reach, the tempo, and the endurance of the force before a single person even leaves the starting line. So why does all this military planning jargon matter outside of the military? Well, because it reveals a universal truth about pretty much any ambitious project you can think of. A plan without logistics is just a wish. It really is that simple. You can have the most brilliant, innovative strategy in the world, but if you can't get the right people and the right resources to the right place at the right time, it's nothing more than a nice idea. And history is just littered with cautionary tales about this. Take Guadalcanal during World War II. The initial invasion was a tactical success, a real win, but the plan hadn't fully accounted for just how hard it would be to sustain the force. Those contested supply lines led to critical shortages of food and ammo, and a victory was nearly turned into an absolute disaster. Logistics wasn't an afterthought, it was the main event. And that really brings us to the final question, a question for you. Whether you're launching a new product, starting a business, or even just planning a community event, what's your reality check? What's that unglamorous, essential work that's going to turn your wish into a workable plan? What's the logistics of your next big project?